Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I know the title might be a little confusing because, I actually didn't get any Goosebumps books for my birthday, but I got a ton of other stuff I asked for that were things like Goosebumps that I wanted to talk about at some point here on the channel. I thought I would go ahead and make a video about this book haul in total for my birthday. Books that my family, my fiance, my mother, my grandfather, all these folks gave me for my birthday this year. I turned 25 years old yesterday, because right now it's like 1:30 in the morning. Anyway, I got quite a few books, a little right at like 10, maybe a little bit over 10, and I'm really stoked. There's a couple of books that actually came in the mail earlier this week that I've had sitting around, and one book from last week, the previous week, that I did a book haul that was not a Goosebumps thing, so I didn't talk about it here on the channel. So I have some things here that I already owned that I wanted to go ahead and show you and give you a heads up of what I'm kind of looking at for future content later on down the road in 2020, more than likely. But there are some of these things I do want to try possibly either this month or just by the end of 2019. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things. This first book here, I bought a copy of because somebody else had recommended the book in the comment section of one of my videos, and it was a person who's a fan of this particular YouTuber named Cameron Chaney. The YouTuber's name was that, not the commenter on my videos. But he wrote a book that's very much inspired by Goosebumps, and I love the cover of this book, and I love the name of the book. It's called Autumn Crow. This is a short story collection that's kind of like a Goosebumps type thing, but not like your typical 130-page story. Just as far as I know, these sort of connect, I guess, from what I can tell in the book itself. This is, I don't think it's self-published. The company is Library Macabre, but it might also be. I'm not entirely sure. But when I first heard about this, I was like, this is one of those great instances where no matter whether the book is bad or good, I can support somebody else here on YouTube who does inspire Goosebumps stuff, who is inspired by Goosebumps stuff, and who wants to talk about that kind of thing. I looked at Cameron Chaney's videos, his channel in total, and it's not focused like on Goosebumps, but you can tell that the way he talks about this book when it first got announced and published and everything, how much he truly loves Goosebumps because of this. So I'd also recommend you go check out his channel as well, just to kind of see some of the things he has to say about his writing and whatnot. Maybe you'll pick up a copy of the book. I plan on trying to read this at some point, even though it's more of a Halloween fall time type book. I know we're in the middle of November, so it's still kind of a fall time, so I might try to read this by the end of the month. I don't know for sure if it's going to happen. At the very latest, it'll probably be next Halloween, God willing, if I'm alive. If I don't read it anytime this year or next year, it'll be at some point that I'm going to talk about the book, because I really want to. It looks really good. It looks like it could be one of those really big surprise sleeper books for me. Kind of like Skeleton in the Closet. One of the first things like Goosebumps videos I did here on my channel, which Skeleton in the Closet was amazing. I mean, it was a genuinely scary, fun book. But anyway, moving along to the next thing. This is a video game, first and foremost. I remember the first time I ever heard of this was from Markiplier, back when he was really more focused on video games. And this game is very cartoonish in art style, but it's also kind of, it's creepy. It has a tension built to it of you having to sneak into a neighbor's house and possibly be caught by this neighbor. You don't really know what he's done, if he's done anything at all. He's just kind of very suspicious. It's called Hello Neighbor. This is the first book of a 3 or so book long series called Missing Pieces. It's written by Carly Ann West. It's about 200 pages long. I'm curious, since this is published by Scholastic, I'm curious about whether this will be better than the Five Nights at Freddy's books, which are really not the greatest. I read the first Five Nights at Freddy's book, The Silver Eyes, and I was not impressed at all. There are some aspects to it that are okay, but for the most part it's a flop, honestly, especially the writing style. It's very amateurish. But I'd be curious to see what this is like. Read a lot of, Scholastic published, horror books, thriller books, mystery books for this age group, like the young, I would say like the lower middle grade class of kids is probably what we're looking at for this. I don't remember Hello Neighbor being as big when it finally came out, at least for younger people. It was like, it's like with Five Nights at Freddy's. Everybody was talking about it as a person that was my age, like a 20-something, that were obsessed with this, and are still, for the most part, obsessed with this. But anyway, moving along though, I have a book here that I have now purchased both of these books. There's only 2 of them. I didn't know. I thought there was like a whole big series of them. I cannot wait to check this out because of the summary that I heard of this book and the second book. Not like a full summary, but enough to get me interested in this, because I was really not interested in collecting Goosebumps parody books. But these looked interesting. This is actually a parody, but not entirely from what I understand. This is Are You Slime's Gooflumps Stay Out of the Bathroom, which is book number 2.5. Yeah, of that series. There's only 2 of these books. The other one is like Eat Cheese and Barf, which is just the most disgusting title I've ever heard of in my life. These are supposed to be that awful 90s gross out humor. And there's only 2 of these, like I said, so you can get them, pretty cheap and, have them in total. Yeah, book number 2.5, not number 2, not number 1, 2.5, just because. Who cares? But it looks cool. I mean, the more I heard about this, I actually really want to read it. I really can't wait to see what it's like. I noticed they have a disclaimer up here on the top saying, warning, not a Goosebumps book. Thought that was kind of fascinating too. Have any of you read this, or any of these books that I talk about in this video? Please let me know down below. Just don't spoil anything, okay? I don't want to be ruined for these things. I want to enjoy them. I really can't wait to read the Goosebumps books at some point. I know a lot of people, especially this being a Goosebumps channel, are probably not very interested in this, or many of the things like Goosebumps segments I do on my channel. But I always find it as a fun opportunity to be able to introduce other things to people that might end up being really good or really awful. Something like that. Anyway, the book here that I've got that I'm really, really stoked over, that I want to read this December at some point, it might even possibly be the first book I read during December. Again, God willing, I'm alive and I'm healthy and able to read at the time. This is an old point horror book from R.L. Stine from way back in the day. I think this is around the time Fear Street started, or maybe even before that. It's called The Snowman. Yeah, about 200 pages. Looks really good. I was interested in this a lot. I really hope it's good. Just one of those weird type of books that R.L. Stine wrote back in those days, before the Fear Street era, or right at the time Fear Street was getting big. I believe, I could be wrong, but this might be more of a supernatural aspect of a book, rather than just like Fear Street, where you have somebody who's a killer, and then whatever happens from that point on. I'm curious to see whether it's going to be good or not. This next book here, I have 1 or 2 of this book. It's called Fear Street Super Chiller. I have the second book of this particular series. I don't own the first or the fourth. They're called Silent Night. This is the third one, and yes, these are mannequins. Thought that was kind of creepy. It reminds me a lot of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movie covers, but it's not. From what I understand, mannequins aren't even in the book at all, from what I understand from people I've talked to. I don't know anything about it, but I hope it's good. I want to read all the Silent Night books during December as well. There's not many Goosebumps books for Christmas time and whatnot. There's like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 at the most. Hopefully, if things go well, better at least than October, I can burn through those books really fast, hopefully. Get some reviews out, especially because I'm a big Christmas guy, but my fiance and I also talked about another project we want to do on the side too, as another possible YouTube channel. Whether we pull through on that and actually do it is one thing, but we're kind of talking about that. So if we do that, it's going to be a little bit of a limited amount of time that I have to be able to just read and read and read and get a whole bunch of stuff read. So if I don't cover the Silent Night series this year, it'll probably be something I try to cover next year, God willing, once again. These are relatively longer, about 200 pages, so it's not like a Goosebumps book where you could burn through these books in, a couple of hours. They're about an hour, or they're about 130 or so pages. These are 200-page long books from Fear Street, so I'll find out what I have time for. It's kind of like what I said, too, with this October. I didn't get to read everything I wanted to. I read all the Goosebumps books except for one that I don't own, that's impossible to find. But I did read pretty much everything I wanted to for Goosebumps, or at least everything listed that I could own for Goosebumps. But there were many other things I wanted to read, like The Halloween Tree from Ray Bradbury, that I've owned for a long time. I read like half the book back in the day, like years ago, and I never finished it. For whatever reason, I just didn't have the time to, and I just put it off to the side. But I am hoping it's good. I am hoping maybe next Halloween I can talk about that at some point. You never know. It's just kind of a matter of time. Next year, of course, I'll be married. Again, God willing, everything goes well. So I won't have as much time, more than likely, to just sit down and bomb out book reviews. So that's why I try to catch up as much as I possibly can during the year right now with 2019 and early next year too, until April when I get married. Just because I want to provide you guys with a lot of content. So if I don't have too much coming out next year after that time, after I get married, maybe you guys can go back and watch some old videos if you haven't seen many of those or anything. There's already like 200 videos on the channel. So there's already pretty much a pretty lengthy amount of content from me, because I ramble all the time, so they're lengthy videos too. Anyway, getting away from that ramble, there is a series that I saw Zach Baby TV talk about that I was very disappointed. I was hoping that I could get my hands on these books for my birthday, and maybe even read and review one before anybody else got their hands on one to talk about it on their channels. And of course, the author himself, or herself, I guess it's himself, would send a bunch of copies of, the books from this series that's based on Goosebumps to Zach Baby TV. So I didn't get a chance to actually break this to people who hadn't heard of it yet. I was really bummed about that, you know. But I did get all the books for my birthday, which I'm really stoked over. This is Fright Vision, and this is the first book, The Cursed Coin, book number 1 by Culliver Krantz. Yeah. These are based and inspired by Goosebumps, and they're just kind of its own series. I think every single story kind of disconnects. I know the newest book that's going to be coming out is called The Cursed Coin 2. I think it's the 6th of the franchise, something like that. I'm really excited that there's a writer out there trying to do the same kind of thing Goosebumps did back in the day. This book is actually bigger than all the other books. Most of these books, from what I can tell, are about 100 pages, maybe sometimes even less, or just barely more than that. This particular book is like right at 150 pages. So I'm also surprised because this is the only one that I can see so far that's actually just written by Culliver Krantz. The other books are kind of co-written by other people. Maybe they're just outlined by him and then other people take care of writing the actual books. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm really excited to read these. There's certain ones, especially book number 5, which I'll show you in a moment, that I'm really hoping are going to be great because they sound excellent. I'm still bummed that I didn't get to talk about these first on YouTube, really. I mean, I'm probably not, regardless. Maybe Zach Baby TV isn't either. But I'm really hoping these are good. I have some faith in these. These look really well done from what I can look at and from the story ideas that I'm seeing too. Even Zach Baby TV said that too. I think he himself kind of expected just a lame, kind of dumb book series, but these are coming out really well. And mind you, the Fright Vision series is not something you can buy at Barnes & Noble. From what I can tell, it's only listed on Amazon, you know, something from them that you can pick up, which makes it more interesting. It must be self-published, I guess. I don't entirely know, but the second book, book number 2, is called Picture Day. It's written by Julia Dove and Culliver Krantz, and this cover, as weird as that cover looks, I'm not super impressed with the cover. It looks a little elementary, but I'm digging what this story is about. This is kind of like a Groundhog Day type thing. You know, I don't want to tell you too much about these stories. I want you to go and read them up yourself. Maybe the summarizes. Listen to me. The summaries maybe on like Amazon and stuff. I think you'd be surprised by how good these actually sound. This next book I really love the cover of. So I love this deep red blood color this cover has as well. This is book number 3, Wishful Thinking by John Zakor and Culliver Krantz. Yeah, look at that color, man. Just look at that cover too. That's really, really awesome in my opinion. I'm really excited to read these at some point. I want to touch at least 1 or 2 of these this month in November just to see what they're like. Maybe even just the first book just to try it out, see some recommendation for you guys. I don't know. But it looks really good. Of course, throughout the month of November, I'm kind of just reading stuff that I want to read. That's kind of backfired already with the book I will be reviewing probably in the next few days. You'll see. You'll see when we get there. It's going to be quite an interesting review, but we'll get there one of these days. The next book is actually kind of interesting too. This is book number 4. I like this purple color on it. It's called Framed for Life. There's 3 writers on this: Artemis Hart, Bruce Zanders, and Culliver Krantz. I really like that purple, like I said. I don't know anything about this book. I don't think Zach Baby TV read anything about it on his video. I could be wrong about that, but looks kind of cool, man. Especially on the back here where you have a mirror and a hammer getting smashed into the mirror and a hand's coming out. Very interesting stuff. This is the one that I think is going to be the best, that I'm really stoked over. This is book number 5, hashtag Graveyard Challenge by S.O. Thomas and Culliver Krantz. This looks so good. I like the cover and everything, especially this background area too. I don't know exactly everything this is going to be about, but I have a feeling this is going to be really, really good. Say what you will about these being a ripoff. I don't care. I think this Fright Vision series looks to me like it's going to have potential, and I'm really excited about the fact that I have these books. Maybe they'll be collectibles one day. You never know. But yeah, the next book I have and the last book that I have for you guys to see for this Things Like Goosebumps book haul, whatever you want to call this, is one of my favorite writers ever. I read the first book of this 2-part series. I think there's probably supposed to be more at some point. I don't know if there's going to be or not, mainly because I've only read the first book. I don't know how this book ends. But this is Jonathan Mayberry's The Nightsiders, Vault of the Shadows. Of course, this is book number 2, like I said. The first book was called The Orphan Army, and it was really good. It was a really wild, fun book. Now, of course, Mayberry is the famous writer who wrote like the Ghost Road Blues series, or the Pine Deep trilogy is what it's called, and those books are amazing. They're adult horror, but they're fantastic, man. They're so good and so scary. They involve some of the best urban legend writing I've ever seen in my life, some of the best fictional books ever. I think Ghost Road Blues, the first book of that series, won like a Bram Stoker Award for Best First Novel. Mayberry is a talented writer. He also wrote a young adult series called Rot and Ruin, which I really want to talk about at some point here on the channel one day. Again, God willing. Rot and Ruin are amazing. They're amazing books. If you haven't seen those books, if you haven't read those books, because they're typically not at Barnes & Noble almost ever, at least at my local Barnes & Noble, they're never there. Those books are amazing too. I think those are better than this series so far, but this is good. It's like an alien invasion type thing. It's not generic like you'd think it'd be, though. Mayberry can take anything. He's written a lot of zombie books for adults. He's written a lot of different types of things, vampire books and stuff. He did the novelization for the Wolfman remake back in 2009 or 10, whatever it was. The one with the guy from Star Wars in it. And Anthony Hopkins was in it as well. Benicio del Toro, that's who it was. Mayberry's novelization was incredible. I mean, the dude, he knows, and since he loves folklore and all of that, he can take those things and really incorporate them into his stories, and he can take something like a zombie and do a whole brand new take that nobody's ever talked about before. You can't help but respect and love this man's work. He's just great, period. His work is fantastic. I could not recommend him enough if you haven't checked his work out before. I don't know about that book. The first book was good. I don't know about that book, though, so I wanted to give you a heads up on that. But if you love zombies, check out Jonathan Mayberry's Rot and Ruin series. Man, they're great. Rot and Ruin is some great writing. Some great reading, too. There's like 5 of those books now. Anyway, guys, that's the whole birthday things like Goosebumps book haul that I have for you. What did you think about any of these books? If you have read them, if you haven't read them, please don't spoil anything if you have read these books and you put your comments down below. I don't want to be spoiled on any of this stuff. Like I said, I have some other things thrown in here too that I want to talk about at some point, maybe this year, even possibly. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go, but I'm going to try. But I'm really stoked over a lot of these things, especially Autumn Crow and the Fright Vision series. They look really good, and to know that that's from people like myself who are just kind of just breaking into writing and whatnot, you know, that's pretty cool stuff, honestly. I'm really excited about that. I'm really stoked to see how it's going to go. What are your thoughts on any of this stuff? Put your thoughts and comments down below, guys. Thank you for watching, and may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.